The Duchy of Anhalt was a historical German duchy. The territory is now part of the federal state of Saxony-Anhalt. History. Anhalt's origins lie in the Principality of Anhalt, a state of the Holy Roman Empire. Dukes of Anhalt. During the 9th century, most of Anhalt was part of the Duchy of Saxony. In the 12th century, it came under the rule of Albert the Bear, Margrave of Brandenburg. Albert was descended from Albert Count of Ballenstedt, whose son Essico appears to have been the first to bear the title of Count of Anhalt. Essico's grandson Otto the Rich, Count of Ballenstedt, was the father of Albert the Bear, who united Anhalt with the Margraviate of Brandenburg. When Albert died in 1170, his son Bernard, who received the title of Duke of Saxony in 1180, became Count of Anhalt. Bernard died in 1212, and Anhalt, separated from Saxony, passed to his son Henry I, who in 1218 took the title of Prince and was the real founder of the House of Anhalt. Princes of Anhalt. On Henry's death in 1252, his three sons divided the principality and founded the respective lines of Aschersleben, Bernburg and Zerbst. The family ruling in Aschersleben became extinct in 1315, and this district was subsequently incorporated with the neighboring bishopric of Halberstadt. The last prince of the line of Anhalt, Bernburg, died in 1468, and his lands were inherited by the princes of the sole remaining line, that of Anhalt-Zerbst. The territory belonging to this branch of the family had been divided in 1396, and after the acquisition of Bernburg, Prince George I made a further partition of Zerbst. Early in the 16th century, however, owing to the death or abdication of several princes, the family had become narrowed down to the two branches of Anhalt-Cothen and Anhalt-Dessau. Wolfgang, who became Prince of Anhalt-Cothen in 1508, was a staunch supporter of the Reformation, and after the Battle of Mühlberg in 1547 was placed under imperial ban and deprived of his lands by Charles V, Holy Roman Emperor. After the Peace of Passau in 1552, Prince Wolfgang bought back his principality, but as he was childless he surrendered it in 1562 to his kinsmen, the princes of Anhalt-Dessau. Ernest I left three sons, John V, George III, and Wikimedia, who ruled the lands together for many years, and who, like Prince Wolfgang, favored the Reformed doctrines, which thus became dominant in Anhalt. Around 1546, the three brothers divided the principality and founded the lines of Zerbst, Plotzkau and Dessau. This division, however, was only temporary, as the acquisition of Cothen and a series of deaths among the ruling princes enabled William Ernest, a son of John II, to unite the whole of Anhalt under his rule in 1570. The first united principality of Anhalt was short-lived, and in 1603 it was split up into the mini-states of Anhalt-Dessau, Anhalt-Bernburg, Anhalt-Cothen, Anhalt-Zerbst and Anhalt-Plotzkau. William Ernest died in 1586, and his five sons ruled the land in common until 1603, when Anhalt was again divided, and the lines of Dessau, Bernburg, Plotzkau, Zerbst and Cothen were refounded. The principality was ravaged during the 30 Years' War, and in the earlier part of the struggle Christian I of Anhalt-Bernburg took an important part. In 1635, an arrangement was made by the various princes of Anhalt, which gave a certain authority to the eldest member of the family, who was thus able to represent the principality as a whole. This proceeding was probably due to the necessity of maintaining an appearance appearance of unity in view of the disturbed state of European politics. In 1665, the branch of Anhalt-Köthen became extinct, and according to a family compact this district was inherited by Lebrecht of Anhalt-Plotzkau, who surrendered Plotzkau to Bernburg, and took the title of Prince of Anhalt-Köthen. In the same year the princes of Anhalt decided that, if any branch of the family became extinct, its lands should be equally divided between the remaining branches. This arrangement was carried out after the death of Frederick Augustus, Prince of Anhalt-Zerbst in 1793, and Zerbst was divided between the three remaining princes. During these years the policy of the different princes was marked, perhaps intentionally, by considerable uniformity. Once or twice, Calvinism was favored by a prince, but in general the house was loyal to the doctrines of Martin Luther. The growth of Prussia provided Anhalt with a formidable neighbor, and the establishment and practice of primogeniture by all branches of the family prevented further divisions of the principality. 19th-century duchies. In 1806, Napoleon elevated the remaining states of Anhalt-Bernburg, Anhalt-Dessau and Anhalt-Köthen to duchies. These duchies were united in 1863 to form a united Anhalt again due to the extinction of the Köthen and Bernburg lines. The new duchy consisted of two large portions, Eastern and Western Anhalt, separated by the interposition of a part of the Prussian province of Saxony, and of 5 enclaves surrounded by Prussian territory: Alsleben, Mühlingen, Dornburg, Godnitz and Tilkerode-Aberode. The eastern and larger portion of the duchy was enclosed by the Prussian government district of Potsdam, Magdeburg and Mersburg. The western, a smaller portion, was also enclosed by the two latter districts and by the Duchy of Brunswick-Lüneburg. The capital of Anhalt was Dessau. In 1918, Anhalt became a state within the Weimar Republic. After World War II it was united with the Prussian parts of Saxony in order to form the new area of Saxony-Anhalt. Having been dissolved in 1952, the state was re-established prior to the German reunification and is now part of the Bundesland Saxony-Anhalt in Germany. Constitution. The duchy, by virtue of a fundamental law, proclaimed on September 17, 1859 and subsequently modified by various decrees, was a constitutional monarchy. The Duke, who bore the title of Highness, wielded the executive power while sharing the legislation with the estates. The Diet was composed of 36 members, of whom 2 were appointed by the Duke. 8 were representatives of landowners paying the highest taxes, 2 of the highest assessed members of the commercial and manufacturing classes, 14 of the other electors of the towns and 10 of the rural districts. The representatives were chosen for 6 years by indirect vote and must have completed the 25th year. The Duke governed through a Minister of State, who was the praeses of all the departments: finance, home affairs, education, public worship and statistics. Geography. In the west the land is undulating, and in the extreme southwest, where it forms part of the Harz Range, mountainous, the Ramberg Peak being the tallest at 1,900 feet. For the Harz, the country gently slopes down to the Saale. Between this river and the Elbe is fertile country. East of the Elbe, the land is mostly a flat sandy plain, with extensive pine forests interspersed with bogland and rich pastures. The Elbe is the chief river, intersecting the eastern portion of the former duchy, from east to west, and at Roslau is met by the Mulde. The navigable Saale takes the northerly direction through the western portion of the eastern part of the territory and receives, on the right, the Föhn and, on the left, the Wipper and the Bode. The climate is generally mild, less so in the higher regions to the southwest. The area of the former duchy is 906 square miles. The population was 203,354 in 1871 and 328,007 in 1905. The country was divided into the districts of Dessau, Cothen, Zerbst, Bernburg and Ballenstedt, with Bernburg being the most, Ballenstedt the least populated. 4 towns, namely Dessau, Bernburg, Cothen and Zerbst, had populations exceeding 20,000. The inhabitants of the former duchy, who were primarily Upper Saxons, belonged, with the exception of about 12,000 Roman Catholics and 1,700 Jews, to the Evangelical Church. The supreme ecclesiastical authority was the consistory in Dessau, while a synod of 39 members, elected for 6 years, assembled at periods to deliberate on internal matters touching the organization of Church of Anhalt. The Roman Catholics were under the Bishop of Paderborn. Rulers of Anhalt. Middle Ages. Esico. Minu 1059–1060th, first Count of Anhalt. Otto the Rich, Count of Ballenstedt. Albert the Bear. Minu 1170. Bernard. Minu 1212. Henry I, 1212–1252. Dukes of Anhalt, 1863–1918. Leopold IV, 1863–1871. Friedrich I, 1871–1904. Friedrich II, 1904–1918. Edward, 1918. Joachim Ernst, 1918. Heads of the House of Anhalt since 1918. Joachim Ernst, 1918–1947. Prince Friedrich, 1947–1963. Prince Edward, 1963–present.